Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to a Facebook Live with Nima and myself. Nima, how are you? Great to see you as always.
It is an absolute pleasure and pain to hang with you. No, it's not painful. It's actually fun. I love our conversations. We get real. It's
We
fun
get
to
deep
get
for
real.
sure.
It's fun to get real, and it's painful to get real. There's the pleasure and the pain. So it's fun, and we want to talk about things that are not so pleasureful all the time, because entrepreneurship ain't always a picnic.
That it is not. And it's ironic because I see a few people that are hopping on here now and a few people that said, hey, when are we starting? Well, we just started. Sorry about that. We were chatting in behind the scenes before we got going here. And in true form of what our topic is today, which is around, facing failure and anxiety that is gonna creep up on you as an entrepreneur, as a human. It's going to happen. I was sharing with Nima, without sharing the details, about all the things that have either gone wrong already for me today or had the potential of going wrong. And I had in my mind of how would I handle this if it goes wrong, and just the anxiety that comes with that. It's so perfect timing wise to be talking about this. And as you say, not something that we all are honest about, or talking about our pains and our struggles, but it's real. It's real. It happens every single day, and we all go through it too, which is why I love this topic here. So
it's kind of like, if you're wanting to become heavyweight champion of the world, you got to expect that you're going to get punched in the face, right? And just because you got punched doesn't mean that something went wrong. It just means that you showed up to work that day. And when crap goes wrong, when you have you set an intention and things don't go according to your intention, which is a lot of the time, some of the time, a lot of the time, anywhere between that, the question is, how do we manage that? How do we respond to that? How do we react? And the work that I've been doing in my own life has been traditionally because I've sucked at adversity. I've sucked at resistance. I've sucked at dealing with stress. And so we teach what we want to learn the most. And because I've sucked traditionally at it in the past, I made it a study in my own life. And so I get to use tools on a day-to-day basis to handle the adversities that are coming at me. And without them, I would probably have drowned a long time ago. So this is a very pertinent topic, and the people who reach out to me to work with me, it's so consistent. It's so consistent that it was worth for us to have this discussion about, because anxiety is a multi-billion-dollar a year industry. And the things that we're doing to help relieve it in traditional methods just don't work.
So let me ask everyone that's here already, and for those of you watching on the replay, feel free to comment on this as well. Tell us something that's given you anxiety in the last 24 hours or the last week, if you can't think of anything in the last 24 hours. And I see a couple of people chime in with comments already, just saying that they're here. So we got Lee here. Good to have you. Matt as well. Hopefully you guys are still here. I know you were commenting right before we went live. Anybody else that's here, please.
And how does it show up in your life? Like, what happens? Like, I literally was writing a list earlier today to share with you guys about how that manifests, and physiologically what happens in your body. Like, you start to feel this pressure. You start to feel your digestive system getting shot. It's pretty powerful. I'm just curious how it shows up in your body too. So I'd love to.
Soreness in the neck. I know as entrepreneurs, I'm sitting right now. I try and get up and move around a little bit, but I find at times too, Nima, when that anxiety is starting to take over, I'll end up at the computer for hours at a time, and then I'll catch myself like this, for hours on end, and then I wonder why I have this pain in my neck, and then I bring it home with me, and I'm not able to relax, and this is something that's just, it wasn't acceptable for me, and it's something that I continue to work on myself too. With two boys, I get to be attentive to them. I get to be able to work through the challenges that are thrown at me every single day and not get overwhelmed and overtaken by that anxiety that comes up. And Ariel just commented here, fear, dread, notice in the lack of breath, stomach.
Very,
I can
very,
relate
very
to that.
common. Yeah, that's the number one thing, is a lack of oxygenation. You'll notice with anxiety, if you're just take a look in the last week, how often have you actually been breathing? How has it been showing up for you? It's just kind of like the slow, shallow breaths of anxiety, and your body isn't getting enough oxygenation. So it kind of becomes this downward spiral. And we're here to give you some tools today to help alleviate it, to help you move in the right direction so that you can show up in your business more powerful in serving your clients rather than being a victim to your symptoms.
Yep. Yeah. And the reason why I titled this too about how failure and anxiety can either tear you down or lead to your success is that, and you would have seen it in the description here on the Facebook Live and even in the emails that I sent you, but as an entrepreneur, you are destined to fail. If you have not failed, you're not trying hard enough. And it sounds weird to say, it's like a contradiction, but it's so true. You can kind of shortcut those failures through mentorship, through coaching, through guidance, through training, through all these different things, but we learn through experience, right? And usually we learn best through failures because you know what not to do next time. And of course, mentoring and coaching helps reduce the amount of failures, or at least the impact that failure can have on you, either financially or mentally or spiritually or physically or whatever it might be. So that's why we're here to talk about this stuff too. And hey, Brad, we got Brad here as well. Brad's my cousin, actually. I asked him to be on this one. Nima, wow. Just so you know, and Brad, we're going to talk about you for a little bit here because my cousin Brad has definitely struggled with feelings of anxiety for multiple different reasons. And just recently, a couple of days ago, he went on Facebook Live himself to say he was stepping outside that fear or pushing through it. And he's going to be seeing through his mission of helping people that are dealing with trauma and anxiety and fears and thoughts of suicide and all these different things that I think have maybe stopped him over time in actually taking action on that. And just wanted to say super proud of you for doing that. And obviously for being transparent here and saying the majority of my life, it's completely debilitating to the point where I don't leave my house for 6 months at a time.
That's very brave of you, Brad. Thank you. The first step is just owning it and being authentic with that. And you had it right there. The main cause where you want to see what's causing it. And the answer basically is a variety of them, right? There is stored trauma in the body. There is inner child kind of disconnection to your inner child. You haven't really, you have a break in the bond with your mother. There was some sort of a trauma, whether it's a separation because of what she was going through, and it gets stored in the body. Or you went through a physical trauma, or, we all are post-traumatic stress disorder. We all have PTSD of some sort, okay? Post-trauma basically is any distressing experience. So getting fired from your occupation, like a relationship trauma, breakup, it gets stored in our body, and it causes the mind to start thinking in exact proportion to how you're feeling. And then when you're feeling how you're thinking, you start to think how you feel, and then you start to feel how you think. And then you start to think how you feel, and this becomes this loop, and you just can't get out of it. And what ends up happening is you then become paralyzed in this mental jail, and everything, you see separation from everyone. Your body starts to break down. That's kind of like the precipitating factor anxiety of many other illnesses and disorders. And then you start to kind of isolate. And instead of doing exactly the exact opposite, which is to reach out and to connect and to just tell the truth and to speak, which is what you did, Brad, with your Facebook Live and what you're doing now, what happens is we do the exact opposite. We tend to isolate. We go into a corner, we isolate. And so it is critical, number one, to really connect with community. Connecting with community is critical because oxytocin is our neuromodulator that actually helps alleviate some of that suffering. And connection is the first step, is just to get real and to connect and say, this is exactly what is going on. And that's why we're here. We want to let you know that you're not alone. We want to let you know that if you're struggling with it, that there is help for you, that you do not have to suffer in silence. You don't have to suffer alone. And that if you just keep getting real, and there's tools, which we're going to share a couple here today, that you will be able to overcome this. And then the best way to do it is to then make a life out of serving other people in some form, as Brad is doing. So kudos to you, Brad. Keep going. And what I'm going to give you guys right now is a tool that I got from a good dear friend of mine, Dr. Russell Kennedy. And he shares a lot about anxiety, and I'm going to give him a plug, the Anxiety MD. He's the Anxiety MD, and he basically says that anxiety basically is when your thoughts, you start believing your thoughts. You get into your head, you're not into your body, you start believing your thoughts, and your thoughts go into projection of the future, fear. And so one of the things that we do now in this moment is to get us back into our body where we are actually feeling safe. And so one of the things that he does is if you bring your third finger and your thumb together and you start rubbing it together, and you take deep breaths and you start rubbing it together, you then have a keen awareness on the present moment. You're now in your body, and you're kind of, Trevor, as you're doing it right now, you'll be able to feel exactly what it feels like. And when you're feeling what it feels like, it prevents you from getting into your head. You get into your body, and then the question you want to ask is, am I safe in this moment? And unless you're in the middle of a freeway, unless you're texting, driving, or there's somebody who's coming at you with a knife, chances are you are safe physically from harm in this moment. And so this is the first thing you do, is that, and just to know that anxiety, all it is just alarm, is a perception that there's a tiger chasing after you. So you want to look over your shoulder and check for a tiger, and then if there's no tiger, you want to say, there is no tiger, and you want to really start to feel where you're at now, and just bring your body back into the moment, bring your mind back into your body, bring it into the moment, and then what you want to do is create a possibility. Decide on an outcome, decide on what outcome that you want, create something possible, and take a step forward towards that outcome with absolute firm intention that you will make it. And so really getting out of your head into your body, staying there for a few minutes, just knowing it's just alarm, doing these tools, deep breaths to kind of modulate yourself. Because when you're in that fight or flight state, your creative center, you can't solve whatever problem's in front of you. And every problem is solvable. Just look at your life up until now. Every problem you've ever had has had a solution. I look back on several times where I was like, oh my God, I don't think I can get through this. But it actually was solvable. But it's not solvable when you're in alarm, because your intuitive centers aren't working, your creative centers. So it's important for us to kind of get back into our bodies. Breathing. Taking in that breath. There. And what that's doing is it's bringing the blood pressure down, changing your neurology so that you can get into creativity. That's when you create a possibility, set an intention, and move towards that outcome with firm belief that the outcome, just like previously, that it's happened before, you will get through this one as well.
Yeah, that's a good technique to ground yourself in those moments too. I know everybody suffers from different levels of anxiety too, where they might think about time and money and what will people think of me, and oh geez, this isn't going to work, and it becomes this like layering on effect where it's just so much. And like I say, everybody's kind of at different levels when it comes to that, but that's a good one. You mentioned that there's a couple other techniques as well that a person can use to kind of turn that inner alarm into their power, not let it overwhelm them and take them over.
Yeah, basically is a reminder that you are in alarm. It's just alarm. You get back into your body, and you basically, it's everything, it is everything that I just said before. Everything that I just said before is exactly what the tools that I use. I mean, building your business as an entrepreneur, all of a sudden crap starts to hit the fan and you're like, what the hell do I do? And so what you want to do, actually, the best defense is a good offense. So the best way that you do it is to set your day up powerfully. You set it with meditation. You know, like there are many meditation apps out there on YouTube, whatever. Start getting into the practice. And if you suck at it, don't worry. It's a practice. It's like golf. So you're not going to be as good as you will be. So you want to get into that training, and you want to create a series of rituals, because anxiety, when you look at a child or you look at an animal, and when they're exhibiting anxious behavior, it's because they're out of a routine. So the best offense is to create routines around setting up your day powerfully with intention. We live with an intention deficit disorder. We totally have an intention deficit disorder. And so if I set my day up and I know exactly what I'm going to be doing at every hour of the day, this is how I dealt with my anxiety, was really looking, all right, so from 2 to 3, I have this session with Trevor. And so how is that going to go? How do I want to show up? What's the intention that I have there? And then after that, what's the intention that I have there? And in each moment, what happens is that my anxious thoughts are always 2 to 3 months down the road, right? There's 6 months down the road of doom and gloom. What's going to happen? I'm going to die penniless, alone. Nobody's going to love me. All of that goes there. However, what I forget...
Right back, Nima. My power cord's going to die here. One second here.
Right. I'll just keep going. So what I remember, basically, what I have to remember in those moments is that in each moment, I can set an intention in each hour. So right now, I've set an intention for this call. I've set an intention for this call of how I want to show up, what I would love to give and what I'd love to receive in this hour. After that, I have another meeting at 3:30. Okay. What's my intention for that one? What's my intention each time? This evening, I'm going to be coming and working with you and Sharm. Okay, what's my intention for that? We're having dinner together. We're going to have a lovely conversation. We're going to do some inner work together. We're going to get our hands dirty. It's going to be fun. What's my intention in those moments? So I don't have control over 3 months from now, but what I do have is a day that I know what my plan is, a week, which I have a game plan, and intentions that are set out of what I want to give and what I want to receive. And when I plan it and I really execute on my intentions, I realize that I am at cause for my life rather than a passive participant. Anxiety happens when I put myself in a place of victimhood in my life rather than in the driver's seat. So victim consciousness, we move on to and realize that we are the creators. We are the ones that actually can be at cause. And when the feelings come up, not to judge them, just to go, it's just alarm. These are just my thoughts. Am I safe in this moment? Go back to your intention and really go on the offensive. Create the day from the beginning. And in the evening, you want to really take into account and really... What am I grateful for about what happened? What are the evidence that things are manifesting, that things are working well? And how do I want to sleep? And how do I want to feel when I wake up? It's all intention. And I believe anxiety is mainly an intention deficit disorder.
Yeah, I love that term. And yeah, you can't control what's happened in the past either, but you can face it. And I want to ask everybody the question too, because I know we got a few people watching here that... Well, I would love for you to share this. What are you feeling anxious about right now? What is it, either from the past or in the current moment, or what might be coming up later today, this week, this month, 3 months from now, 6 months from now? What's going on for you? And just share it in the comments, because, there's something. I know, you're not just listening on the other end and absorbing all this. You're feeling something right now. So I'd love to get your feedback. And I'll tell you what's come up for me. So in the last 24 hours, I have been preparing for a webinar that I did this morning with our friend David Newman, Nima. And wow. I just did that one with David. And the natural things that come up for me is, what if nobody signs up? What if nobody shows up? What if something technically goes wrong? And there's a lot of moving pieces in what I do with my webinars. So there's always something that can go wrong. And it was actually interesting after my call with David, he's like, how do you do the setup that you do? Because you're on video and then you have your screen showing and then you go over to a whiteboard and you draw stuff. And he's like, there's like 7 possibilities of something going wrong. And I think the thing that I've learned is that it's going to go wrong from time to time, but I've learned how to adapt through it, right? I've gone through those moments where I've had 1,000 people signed up for a webinar and 500 people there, and all of a sudden my internet cut out. Like literally, I've gone through that experience.
Ow. Ouch. Yeah, man. My heart goes out to you. There are a million moving parts.
But it could happen. And it kind of goes back to that, the obvious reality that failure is going to happen. And obviously we want to try and find ways to mitigate those risks as much as we can. But as an entrepreneur in particular, in your business and in your personal life, you're going to run into challenges, not only technically speaking and all that aspect, but also in, finding the balance and not beating yourself up over it too. I think I watched a video yesterday of somebody talking directly to me. Basically, they were in a video, but they were talking to me. Do you find sometimes that your business is really successful, but your home life is really suffering? Do you find other times when your home life is really great, but your business is suffering? Like it's always going to keep happening too. And that's the thing. Having tools to be able to focus on that and work through it is really powerful, which is why I'm glad we're having this conversation. I see some comments coming in here now.
At the end of the day, Trevor, it's all about never giving up. It's all about stepping up no matter what happens. The facts don't count of what's happening. The facts don't count when you're committed. At the end of the day, all that matters is your commitment level. I know that come hell or high water, whatever challenges that I'm going through, I'm committed to being the best teacher that I can be. I'm committed to helping refine my tools and methodologies so that my clients can get the best results in their mindset, in their heart set, helping them, deal with their transitional anxiety and their relationships and their career. I'm committed, and I use my life's challenges and failures as a laboratory so that I can kind of take the failure that I go through and just keep working and working and plugging and plugging and plugging and unpacking and then coming out with something very powerful so that others can benefit from. And so it's really about reframing the failures, is taking whatever's in the way and really seeing it as it's on the way. How can I make this on the way? How is this on the way? It's through a series of powerful questions. So, for example, with you, Trevor, one question you can ask, so what you went through this morning with all the challenges you went through, how was that on the way to building your program and helping your clients? How was that specifically on the way?
On the way, well, I can't teach what I haven't done myself. So in order for me to help other people face all of the potential disasters that could happen along the way with the 15 moving parts, I have to have gone through it. So I need to know what that looks like. And not only that, but how I can react to it in the best possible way to spin a positive light on it. And to be honest, like it used to give me, for any of you that are doing Facebook Lives or want to do webinars or creating videos or whatever else, there is a fear around, well, what if something goes wrong? What if I fail at this? What if nobody likes it? When you accept that, like Nima and I hop on every one of these Facebook Lives with the intention of, if 0 people show up here, are we going to be freaked out and off of our game? Or are we just going to continue to have this conversation knowing that this is being recorded? It's going to stay online forever. My kid is going to see this 10 years from now, or who knows, maybe 3 years from now. They might be attentive enough to be using their own iPads, who knows? But I always think about that. As far as like, just owning up to the fact that it doesn't always go right, and how you show up in those moments are really truly what defines you too. And it actually provides an example for other people. So that's a long-winded answer to that question.
Yeah, it's it's the control of the inner game. And so what happens is whenever these symptoms come up, it's wise for us, instead of reacting, and what I've learned how to do through struggle, through challenge, through many failures, is when the symptoms come up, rather than reacting, to just go inside and just feel them. Stay in the body, notice them, and approach them with curiosity. Approach your symptoms with curiosity and just know their reactions to alarm. That your thoughts are not actually real. They are just projections of the future, and go inside and working on that inner game. One of the things that I wanted to share, though, is a big thing, is that you can sit here and do all the tools and the meditations and the affirmations and all of that stuff. But the biggest thing that I've observed, and this is what, when I observed this, I was like, wow, I gotta really start teaching this. First of all, I have to correct this in my own life. And then once I saw the results, I have to teach this to other people because I have to be really powerful with it. Anxiety is also the result of a divided mind, which means, like, let me give you an example. I had a client who came in and she's had paralyzing anxiety and panic attacks for 2 years. So I asked her, I said, so when did they begin? She goes, 2 years ago. I said, well, what happened 2 years ago? So this is one of the questions you're going to want to ask you. Like, you might want to write this down for the peeps to really start to pick apart. Okay, if this is interesting to you, you got to really ask this. If this happened to you, when did it begin? Number one. And what happened during that time? So I asked her, I said, so when did it begin? She said 2 years ago. And I said, okay, so what happened 2 years ago? She goes, I had a hysterectomy surgery. And I'm like, okay, hysterectomy surgery. She wakes up from it and then boom, panic attacks. So then we started working together. She began, we started working together, and I said, all right, so here's the deal. Here's what I've learned, is that anxiety is often a distraction from an inauthenticity or a lie. Okay, it's a distraction. There's some sort of a rage, some sort of a lie, some sort of a guilt that you're holding on to, some inauthenticity in some way that happened, that you've done, that's happened, that you're holding on to. Now, I'm not painting everyone with the same brush, but I've just had enough experience working with people with this stuff. So she goes, all right. And so she was very reluctant to tell me. So 7 years prior to her surgery, she started having an affair. She walked in on her husband watching. He was in the military, in the U.S. military, and he did a stint in Korea. And so he has this little fetish for Asian pornography. She walks in on him, seeing that stuff, and in that moment, she decides that she's not good enough. So what does she do? She goes back with her high school sweetheart and and feels justified in starting an affair. Now, I'm not making commentary about pornography, affairs, whatever. These things happen. I'm just saying exactly what happened. So soon after she starts having this affair, she starts getting bleeding and spotting, and it was mysterious. They didn't know what was going on. And so as the affair progressed, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, her symptoms started progressing worse and worse, more and more bleeding, until finally they diagnosed her with endometriosis, and they basically recommended that she have a hysterectomy. Mm-hmm. So she has her hysterectomy 2 years prior to when we met. And the day that she wakes up from her surgery, from that moment, her body did not have her uterus anymore to express that lie that she was living, that incongruency that she was living in her life. Mm-hmm. That was the underlying root cause. So whenever I live with an incongruency, whenever I lie, whenever I'm not being authentic with something in my life, my body gives me the gift of anxiety to force me back into congruence and authenticity. That's the journey. That's exactly what we're here to do. And so when we do it, it's like, holy shit, like, wow. So It's very powerful. And so what I do now is to guide other people who are struggling with anxiety, not only give them these daily tools and the meditations and all the self-care stuff that you got to do. It's like we all have to learn them. But where are you not being congruent with your life? Where have you been incongruent, inauthentic? And it's amazing how many times it has to do with infidelity. It's like After about a year of coaching, the program that I created with my team of coaches, it was bizarre how many people started and they came in with presenting symptoms of anxiety who had an unresolved affair, who were holding on to some sort of a lie in their marriage. And it was mind-boggling. And when you get complete with it and you restore that integrity, which probably is one of the scariest things that you'll ever have to do in your life, from that space, you then all of a sudden, everything transforms.
Mm-hmm.
I had, so here's what happened to that woman. She's having paralyzing anxiety. She realized, holy shit, it was because of the lie. So guess what her treatment was?
Tell the truth.
Which was probably the scariest thing. Now, here was the complicating factor. Her father, who she hated, why? Because he cheated on her mother. She had to go back. What we did, we got her to go back and restore integrity within that relationship and say, I've been hating you all this time and I became you.
Wow.
And so she restored that love with her father. Then he understood her, they connected and bonded, and then he then held space for her to go back to her husband and say, look, this is what's been going on. So she got complete with the whole thing and anxiety gone. So I can sit here and she's tried everything, the medications, she did the acupuncture, she did all the meditation, all of that stuff. It's great. Fine. I'm a chiropractor. I get it. I help people with anxiety, with their physical, like you were mentioning how your neck was bothering you. I help people with that kind of physical stuff. Fine and dandy. Great. But how are you living your life? Who are you being in your life? And these are very powerful questions that we are all as human beings are faced to ask. And I'm constantly being called to task as a leader. Whenever I falter, whenever I fail, and I sit down and I'm just really looking hard in the mirror at where I've been incongruent, inauthentic, luckily there's a way out if you're willing to do the scary thing, which is to tell the truth. So many people would rather get sick and anxious and stuck and depressed and their bodies will fall apart before actually getting real and telling the truth. And so that is the thing that many people who talk about anxiety, many treatments and all that stuff, they completely leave out.
Right. Bunch of comments coming in here. Let's see. Janie mentioned speaking at a conference tomorrow. And then I saw your most recent comment there too, Janie. You froze whilst speaking. I'm assuming you're British. Whilst speaking at a conference once. It has stayed with me and it worries me that I'll repeat this and freeze again. Yeah, that one can be that one can be something that can either tear you down and make you never want to do it again, or empower you to actually go up and know that it can never be as bad as what that experience was. Whatever you felt in that moment. And in fact, I've been through this before too, because I do a lot of speaking, either through these webinars or through webinars, Facebook Lives, or in person. And I've had moments, not a complete freeze up, but times where I forget where I am in my presentation. And it's the feeling that you get coming over your body is very, very
it's
strong.
Physiological.
Yeah.
It's physiological. It comes right into your body and it just sucks.
Yeah.
So I've worked with a lot of people who had the stage fright, the freezing. And so what that is earlier childhood trauma as well. I mean, that, you come up there's a traumatic previous experience, there's patterns from the past. And so I created a methodology that helps you neutralize that. And it's a cognitive and a physiological method that really helps with all of that stuff. But you will not be able to overcome that, Janie, without actually going through it again. And my suggestion to you is to call it out the whole time. When you're up there, say, listen, I just wanted to tell you guys, and start with vulnerability. About 3 years ago, I went up and I just froze, and I promised myself I'd never do it again. So right now, I am conquering my worst fear by being up here. Actually start your presentation off like that, rather than pretending to have your crap together. That's my best advice to you, is to start it off going, all right, let me share with you. 3 years ago, I'm up in a conference. I'm doing a talk on this topic. I prepared for 3 weeks before, had all my slides ready. I was ready to go. And as soon as I got up there, I froze. How many of you have experienced that? How many of you have experienced that? Yeah, me too. So standing up here was probably the scariest thing. I didn't even sleep last night. In fact, I got 3 pair. I have a Depends undergarments on right now, just in case I shit my pants up on stage. So if you start your talk off like that, you've already won me over.
Yeah, and you break any kind of feeling of, because you got to know that feeling's on the other side too. People, when people watch other people present, they project their own insecurities and feelings even in that way too. Like if you ever been in a presentation or you've ever delivered a presentation, you've asked for feedback and it's crickets. A lot of times you feel like this, like, oh my God, they don't like me. But the truth is that they're scared to say something, right? Yeah. It's their own thing. It has nothing to do with you.
Right. Everyone's got an issue with most people have an issue with self-expression. You know, self-expression is not easy because what are people going to think of me? You know, it's like probably one of the scariest things that you can do.
Totally. And on that note here, so Brad, I'll read your comments out here too. And there's a couple more. We'll get to these as well. Brad mentioned my 3 big things. Does the path I'm on unlock my potential? Does being open about my mental health struggles, and is it going to affect my future relationships? And then how the hell am I going to support myself doing this? So there's 3 big ones for you, Brad. And you know what? Sorry, go ahead, Nima.
These are great questions. And the answer is, it all depends on how vulnerable you are, Brad. I mean, you go on a date and you just basically go, you know, I've had challenges with anxiety in my past, and this is what I'm, you know, some people might have an issue with it, and other people might be like, wow, that's incredible. And the right person will be totally open to that. You know, you just share it openly.
Yeah. I'll give you an example, Brad, and you probably know this already, but I went through a divorce in 2007, 2008. I can't even remember when it was now. 2008, I believe, is almost 10 years ago. And there was a massive amount of shame for me in that, just because it was like, I felt like I was repeating patterns. And, you know, eventually I had the strength to go, you know what, I'm going to move on. And I, you know, just literally sold everything that I had. I started living on friends' couches. I started following my path, my dream. And I slept on Mom's I had a blow up bed inside of a spare little tiny room in downtown Vancouver that I slept on for like 6 months. And that I met Sharmila, my wife currently, while I was in that situation. And I remember feeling so ashamed when I had her come back there at one point to see what I was doing and see the life I was living. But I had spent like 6 months before that too, feeling the ashamed aspect of it and not letting that in. And when I did, I actually found that I made a better connection with her, because she could see that she could see past the fact that I was sleeping on Mom's couch. She saw something inside of me as to what I was trying to create and the kind of person that I was, you know, working on being every single day. And I think that honestly is what created the connection that we had when we first met. If I was faking it and trying to be the big shot that knew it all, that had it all together, that, you know, was doing everything that everybody thought I was supposed to be doing and hiding the fact that that was my current reality, we wouldn't be here today. We wouldn't have 2 kids. It just wouldn't have happened. So being vulnerable and honest and transparent, sure, you might have some people that you might want to be, you know, in a relationship with, that it might turn them off because of whatever stage they're in their life. But you will end up connecting with somebody that will get you for who you are, exactly who you are. So there's a lot to be said for going to that place and not being ashamed of it either. Yeah. It's hard in the moment, though.
It is hard because you're talking about shame. You're talking about probably one of the worst feelings that a human being can experience, because guilt means I did something wrong. Shame means I am a horrible person. And so it's like the worst experience to feel. And that, see, every time I've ever worked with somebody with anxiety, it wasn't anxiety that they've had. It was shame. It was resentment. It was guilt. It was fear. It was like one emotion piled on top of another, not processed properly, leads to anxiety. So there's like a whole slew of things that it's important for us to really get to doing. And that's critical. It's critical to do the work. You can't sit there and just expect that a therapist is going to fix you or a coach is going to fix you, and that you're going to one day learn the magical bullet that exonerates you from doing the work. It's a daily task. Living intentionally is daily. Being grateful, practicing gratitude for what's there rather than what's not there is work, and it's daily, and it's my responsibility, not yours. Not yours for me. Counting my blessings each day, each night, structuring my day, knowing exactly what my values are, putting things into my schedule that are in alignment with my values, counting my blessings, expressing love, connecting with others, getting involved. You know, you're either connected to your higher forces or you're disconnected. It's either it's on or it's off. And there are many things we can do to connect us to higher forces. So it's critical that we do the work to do that. So that's what's available when you have the right guide, when you have the right mentorship, and you do the work.
Yeah, and showing up with the right intention. I know every time and Nima is a coach to me, and we're friends, but I see him as a coach and somebody that can help me with some of these tools and working through things as well. And one of the things you always say before we get on these calls too is, what is the intention we're going to create with this call? It's not anything else. There's no conversion opportunities or any intentions with what we're doing. It's literally, how do we show up and serve people as best as we possibly can? And I wanted to just say too, because there's a lot of examples here of people either working in jobs or wondering how they're going to support themselves doing the things that they love. One of the things that has really helped me is to basically say to yourself, and this is something that I learned through a personal development program that I went through, but and I'll spare the swearing because they won't let us boost this post if we do it, but it's like, oh, what the F, do whatever it takes and just jump in. So whenever you feel that fear of and I'll speak to you, Brad, I'm talking to my cousin right now directly. So you did your first Facebook Live the other day and you declared your intention. One of the things that Nima challenged me on 2 months ago was, let's get on and talk about this stuff on a weekly basis. And I immediately went into a story. Oh, I'm going to be too busy, and I got this and I got that. And what are we going to talk about? And oh, geez, what if it doesn't work? And all these different things, right? And he said, let's do it weekly. And I said, well, let's do it every 2 weeks. Let's do it weekly. And we've been doing this consistently every week, with the exception of last week because we had a bunch of webinars and stuff going on. But anyways, we have been fairly consistent with this. And it's amazing the opportunities that it's opened up without the intention of it creating opportunity, just with the intention of supporting people. So if your mission is to support people and raise awareness and have it so that the conversations around mental health are not just a one-time-a-year thing on that special date that's sponsored by the big company. Instead, it's a conversation that's always happening. Get on Facebook Live every single day. Get on every day and talk about what you're going through. And that is a massive stretch for you. I know it is. But it's also the thing that will set you free too. It's also the thing that will get you exactly what you're looking for. So that would be the thing that I would challenge you to do, which is to just get on and don't overthink the topic. Just have a list of things. Have 15 things that you know you want to talk about. And that day, decide which one you're going to do. Get on with intention and talk for 7 minutes, 3 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Just start the process. Heck, you'll probably find your next girlfriend through that too.
Yeah. So, wrapping this up, I'd like to just say to everybody that you're not alone. The reason why we did this broadcast was to let you know that this is a big issue. It's massive in the planet. You're not alone. And to just keep going and to realize they're only symptoms, and, ask yourself some very important questions. Was there stored trauma in my body I haven't really learned how to unpack yet? Are there inauthenticities and incongruencies that I haven't really yet come to terms with and restored integrity with? So this is critical to be doing that. And if you don't know how to do it, make sure you have the right guide to help you. And your life is short. It's important for you to be living it according to your values, according to, you're making the call. It's important that you're the one making the call. You're the one that's being at cause with your life. So we're here to support you in any way we can. And if you have any other specific topics that you really want us to expand on specifically, please make mention of that. But for this topic, make damn sure that you've structured your day. The book, The Miracle Morning, is really good. It really helped me kind of get structure in my day, and it really gave me a good piece of the puzzle starting off. And from there, everything else becomes possible. But the work is very important for you to do. There's your work that you got to do, and then there's outside help. Sometimes you can't see the forest from the trees. You don't see your blind spots, and it's important to find somebody and invest in a mentor that has been where you are. And that's really what I wanted to kind of end off with.
Absolutely. And I linked up, I do this at the end of each one of these lives that we do too, because when I connected with Nima through a friend who I trusted, who then me and Nima got on a phone call, and 15 minutes later I said, I'm in for a weekend workshop. And the work that we've done together, both with myself, personally, and with myself and my wife, and then the work that we're doing together with people that we support in our mentoring program, I'm just a believer in what you've created here, Nima, with regards to how you're showing up and the intention that you're creating and supporting people through all this. And I love that the terminology of transitional anxiety, because I think everybody can relate to this, entrepreneur or not. You're going to go through transition, whether it's personally, mentally, physically, through your business. And there's just a great resource there. Go check it out if you haven't already. There's a link in the comments. I just popped it in there. And I watched it again the other day for like the fourth time, just to remind myself of like some of these things. And I think you'll find sometimes, even in some of the examples, I had no idea actually before I watched that, Nima, of some of the people that you've worked with and just the extremes of some of the experiences that they've gone through, like being in war or going through traumatic experiences of accidents and, watching loved ones die around them. And there's just so many things in life that can tear us down, that having these tools to be able to push through those things, to be able to see through your dreams, to be able to be there for your family and for the people that you serve through your businesses is just so critical. So that's why I want to help spread the message. Go check out that video. Any final thoughts, Nima? And we'll maybe shut things down and get back to our days here. Yeah,
just know that you're not alone. Just know that we're here and we are in it with you. We do the work. We show up. Trevor mentioned at the beginning of the call, everything that went wrong earlier did, and you step up. Step up. Never, ever, ever give up. Never give up. No matter how dark the days seem, never give up. Keep stepping forward. Open your heart. Share your truth with as many people as possible, and powerful things will happen.
Yes, sir. We're here for you. Camilla, thank you. I'm grateful for the wonderful presentation. You're welcome, Camilla. Thanks for being here. Thanks for everybody else. For those of you watching on the replay too, please leave comments. We are here. We're always watching these. These are up on my page all the time, and we're here to support you. So thanks again.
Trevor, I'll see you tonight, brother.
We'll see you in a few hours. Yeah. And we'll talk to all of you next week again.
Bye-bye.